Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, very good afternoon to you. This is Mohammad Maaz Hussain. Basically, I've dialed in from Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh.
So are you professor there?
Sorry?
Are you professor there?
No, I am incubation manager at the Frank and Debbie Islam Entrepreneurship Incubation Center at Department of Business Administration.
Yeah, welcome, Mr. Maaz.
Thank you so much. Hello. Yeah, very good afternoon to you. This is Mohammad Maaz Hussain. Basically, I've dialed in from Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh.
Okay, can we start?
Yeah, good to go. I'm ready.
Right. So since you also know that this is going to be a very technical session, so that's why we are not expecting more than around 30-40
Yeah, no worries. I think we are live as well.
joining.
So many of the people will be over there. So should I start sharing?
Just a second. Just let me introduce you, then you can start.
Got that.
Okay. So warm welcome and good afternoon to everyone those who have joined. And let me welcome on behalf of the Institution Innovation Council of JLA University. I, Ravi Kumar Tiwari, Senior Manager for Innovation, Incubation and Entrepreneurship at JLA University. Welcomes everyone, those who have joined. And also, I like to welcome Mr. Mukesh Kestwal, who is the Senior Program Manager at Head Start Network Foundation. And he is also a tech counselor to few startups. And previously, he has worked in the capacity of incubation manager and has been a junior research fellow. And he has worked on various government grants as well as some research projects as well. So today's topic is going to be on what we mean by technology readiness level, which is also known as TRL, and how one can go for the technology commercialization. So one start from the idea and how you can go through the product, or if you don't want to build a product by your own, how one can transfer it to someone else. So that is called as a technology transfer also. So that we are going to listen here from the Mukesh. So Mukesh, over to you, and warm welcome to you again.
Thank you, Ravi, for introducing as well as for setting up this wonderful topic and session as well. I definitely congratulate you and as well as to the whole institute for bringing out such tech-oriented topic along with the sense of bringing a startup into it. So I'll just start sharing out my screen and we'll give a brief about like what we do, where I come from, and the expertise I hold. You can see in a way. Just let me know if my screen is visible to you, and then I'll go ahead.
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for this opportunity for joining us today, and I'll try to give the thoughts of mine which I have learned with my experience of working with the government or with the non-government as well. So this topic is again very vast in terms of understanding the tech part of which is more on the TRL side, technology readiness level, and always have been a subject where the understanding of TRL goes with agency to agency as well as from department to department. For example, for pharmacy department, it can be different one in a way, whereas for the embedded-led organization or into an engineering one, it can be slightly different. Also, question comes like what actually TRL is and how it has came into the existence. So most of the time things come for the policy side. Similarly, TRL also came into that, and then this is basically kind of a matrix to understand where at what level our innovation is, or for example, to standardize that kind of thing, and how this can help the industry one. So this is one of the things which came from the industry side as a part for them to understand the policy. So before I go deep into this, I just would love to give a brief of the organization from where I come. So I work with the Head Start Network Foundation, which is one of the oldest volunteer-driven group working since 2007 and have been empowering the enablers. We have 30 plus chapters in the country, impacting not just only the urban, but as well as tier 2, tier 3 cities. As far as the international chapters concerns, we have one chapter at Finland, another one is at Berlin. And recently we have started working with the Japan, one chapter in Japan as well. On the government side or for the partnership side, Head Start have very vast major network with all 150 plus partners across government, non-government, corporate, incubators and non-incubators as well. We have very deep engagement with Atal Innovation Mission, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, startup from the state government like Kerala, Himachal, Uttarakhand and all. Whereas on the corporate side, we had very good like association with Microsoft, be it in the tech side, whereas in the venture side, for example, Bloom and all. Similarly, incubators also, we had very deep engagement with major of the 20 plus hubs in the country. Some of them, like for example, I have IIT Roorkee, IIT Mandi. These all incubators plays very important role in terms of bringing out startups over there. So also when we go on the TRL, before we move into that, this is one of the best slide I always have shown it to my audience, or even to, I also have tried to understand what this actually means and have learned a lot out of it, which is more on the 0 to 1. And I'm hoping that you guys are also coming, some of them are coming from the tech background or maybe from the digital one, where we all identify everything between 0 to 1. And that's where I think that's what I used to say, or I have read somewhere. It's something like whatever the mind can conceive and believe it can be achieved. Uh, these are some of the project or prototype. Since we are into a topic which is more of understanding how this science-based research or the basic research goes into commercialization sector. So before I move into it, I just would love to showcase you some of the very basic circuitry diagrams, which will give you a glimpse of like how this TRL level works, and as well how do we identify that at what level we are, or whenever, for example, many of you are from the academic side, that's what I'm assuming, and when we go for funds and when we apply for any fund, or even if we want to start something called a startup, then how does it make a sense? This is one of the very basic circuit diagram for solid solar monitoring system. And today, many of the people you might have seen, like there are various that kind of prototypes which are in the market, and even solar industry has evolved a lot. But these are some of the prototypes which we were working out in our labs. Uh, just give me a second. Ravi, just can you confirm me if this slide you can see?
You have started now. We can see. We can see.
Yeah. So the PDF version was not working out properly. So these are some of the very basic circuits which you guys may have read or seen in the books or even in the classes when we are in our first semester, second semester or so. And this is where I think basic understanding or the information around the technology comes into the picture. And that's where I think this TRL also come into the picture. Though till we go into higher research or something on that note, most of the time we do not hear out what is TRL. Even in I do remember that till BTech second year, third year, no one talks about TRL, right? Unless you go into research, unless you go into startup community directly or into the industry, no one thought about it, right? But then these all things are actually in our academic itself. We have been playing with these by working out on that segment. So if you see, this is particularly one circuit diagram for the single product, which I just showcased you. And this is also kind of a prototype which we were trying to build up. So these are some of the circuitries diagram, like working on different various principles and all. But question comes like, if these are the prototypes, and what's the difference between prototype to product, and also on the ideation to that kind of thing. This one particular quote is something which is very interesting, as well as very one for the learning point of view. In terms of differentiating between innovation and execution, right? Most of the time, there's a very big question and a very big question to understand, like what is the difference between startup and a business, right? People have been hearing startup quite often in last 4 5 years, if I say. Post 14, most of the time we have heard about it, but in the last 3 years, the word startup and this word have become very prominent. And I think post coming of the programs like Shark Tank or the Horses Table, this is one thing which even people are talking in the dining and all. So question again come like, what is the business and what is the startup? And most of the time, the major difference between that is on the innovation front. But when we talk on the academic side also, this innovation come into picture, right? What is the innovation and how does this make difference in the academic part? And the major challenge over there is the execution. We all have been doing research. I did my MTech in 14, and I know that what kind of, or the level of research we were doing. I did publish various articles, patents and all. But the execution which is lacking over there is something which stops us to go for the startup world. And I think this is the basic linkages between that as well. India have been doing a lot of good work in the research in the R&D front. We have various institutes and universities over there. But this innovation, which we are doing in the academic front, definitely lacks somehow the execution part of it. And that's why this one particular quote, which was even quoted by recently by STPI for launching of the Chunauti 3.0 challenge. So that's where I just wanted to emphasize you guys, like what is TRL and why this is needed, and also how basically we can motivate our young generation, which is deeply doing a lot of research work, and to bring that innovation upfront into the market by commercializing that kind of thing. So this is where I think this is where I was talking about technology readiness level, what that is, and this is particularly in a scale by RTO's kind of organization, which is research and innovation, research and technology organization, a group of RTOs across the country. This you can assume something like ITU, which is International Telecommunication Union, for making the policies for bandwidth, similarly IEEE and something like that. So ERTA is one organization which has recommended this particular matrix, and it came around 1970s or something. And basically, again, most of the research which you see today came during the 40s or 50s after the, and which was basically used by defense segment and all, right? Similarly, this was also recommended by a group of organizations in 1970 for the aerospace and aeronautical part, basically. But slowly, it evolved in such a way that post today, I think every industry in the world is using TRL level to understand at what level their products are or their prototypes are, or what is the basic research behind it. So today it is evolved in a lot. Whereas till 80 it was only for the aeronautics, whereas till 90s it was only for the electronics and pharmaceutical industries. But today, no, not a single industry is you can say untouched with the TRL. Uh, TRL again, you all might be aware about the matrix around it. It goes from 1 to 9 rating on such a numbers kind of thing. uh, when somebody do something into the basic labs, or when somebody goes into the academic or even in research one, that's where the first TRL comes into the picture, which is basically when we try to understand what is the basic principle behind it. When somebody try to conceptualize that particular idea, it can again be as simple as into a doc file or into some circuitry board or something on that note. This is where somebody try to understand the basic principle. If some today, like for example, many of the people may have heard about how the solar market has evolved, how computer market has evolved, how circuitries has came into the pictures. So when somebody start conceptualizing something, that's when TRL1 level of understanding comes. And this is where even many of the seed grant today's come. For example, in academics, even government has put lot of fund for the ideation based startup, which are led by the student, without having any company, without having any valid product prototype, just an idea. If you have an idea, they will be giving you some grant of 5K, 10K, or even 5 lakh, something on that note. So this is basically TRL1 is the first version of it, the version where excellence matters, like if you are really having that kind of excellence into it. So this is basic principle observed, and where concept of ideation comes to the picture. But when we move toward the next level of it, this is more on when concept is basically formalized. This is something where it is on the paper, where someone decides like what they want to do, or where basic circuitry component comes if it is something related to the embedded or on the engineering segment. There was an example of, I think you all might have read about how mouses and all this kind of thing came into the labs and everything, right? On the computer segment. So this is where somebody decide to make a prototype or a very basic circuit board by bringing out the components into it. When somebody from the concept phase of document side moves into the lab and decide that yes, this is something he or she would like to make it up. So this is where we define that, okay, my innovation is into the TRL2 stage now, because I know that what I want to make it out. Either I want to make it as a product, either I want to make it as a product for solar monitoring system or something else, right? The next phase, which is TRL3, is more on the validation in the lab. The focus area over here is on the validated. For example, if I have tried some lab experiment, it can be again in the pharmaceutical side as well. If let's say I decide to go with the experiments, if I decide, yes, these are some of the 4 to 5 experiments to achieve my target, or to kind of a segment where I'm doing my principal experiments in the lab. For example, if somebody want to make a device to monitor humans or something on that note, what kind of sensors will he need to precise that thing? So when this experimentation is going on, when validation is going on in the lab, this is what we call it, that the person is doing TRL level 3 innovation over there. And this is the particular part when somebody start moving out from ideation into the another level of that technology. Yeah, if anyone has anything, I'll be taking them as well. uh, for the TRL4, this is when somebody goes from just validation to the working one. uh, this is the time when we see this. I think I'm getting noise. Ravi, can you mute them? Yeah, thank you, Ravi. So when somebody start working out, we again have to understand that validation or experimenting with different product versus when somebody is actually working is what difference does it make. So when somebody is doing test trials over there, when somebody is making 4 to 5 different kind of sensor based circuitries over there, so that's where TRL3 comes. But when the product is active, when product is working, that's where we say that this is my TRL4 level innovation, and now I am something able to understand that how my product will work out. This is basically working in lab, and the first prototype, many of the time third year, second year, BTech grade can understand this. This is where your prototypes looks when you say that, okay, my TRL4 is something, this is working when the working principle can be seen over there. If it is to monitor or track the solar system over there, then it should work over there. If it is on human monitoring or a robot to sense something on a kind of wall monitoring or something, then that should work as a prototype. So this is a fundamental project basically, when fundamentally whatever you want to achieve with this particular innovation should work out as a innovation. uh, 5 is more on the environment. So many of the time, for example, I'll definitely show you 3 to 4 example which we guys have worked. So these are some of the thing in 5. It is more on the environment side. Can or will it work as a device if I run this into the real environment conditions? If it is working out, or if I'm testing that into the environment segment, and that validation is more on the TRL5 segment for me. 6 is more on again demonstration in the real environment side. 4, 5, and 6 are almost on the same side, whereas the only difference is between validation and on the demonstration side. When it start working out after validation, if I am just checking it out, like if it will work or not. For the 7 and 8, 9, these are higher end versions for the TRL, most of the time very complex one. And also when something you can say that, yes, my prototype is ready. By TRL6, our prototypes are always ready, working functionally in the environment. And when my product is ready, my prototype is ready, then I can show it in the operational environment. You can also think TRL7 as a particular level of invention when we start getting out the feedback from our users or something on that note. So this is something when my prototype can be demonstrated in operational environment. TRL8 is almost similar to the final product which you guys are seeing in the market. When my system is almost qualified, this is on the final phase when I have to send it for regulations, for compliances, for standards. For example, if today you have to make any changes to any product into the mechanical one on the vehicles one, it has to have an approval from the ARI kind of organization. Similarly, if something is coming on pharmaceutical side, it has to have approval from ICMR or that kind of organization. So this is the invention of TRL8. When you say that, okay, my invention is ready, my product is ready, and it is into the trial phase with the government or with the policymakers or with the standards. Again, it can be standards in the pharmaceutical, it can be standard from the electronics segment like ISO and that kind of certifications. So if your invention is at that level, then we call it that we are in the TRL8. And the only difference again in TRL8 and 9 basically comes from the standard side. So when everything is qualified, even this product is ready to go, but only based on the regulation compliance and standards, usually the companies will wait for it. And 9 is when your product is already in the market, you're getting some, not only just feedback, but as well as you have started generating the revenue. Whatever you see in the market always goes with the TRL8 and 9 side. Even many of the time you may see that TRL8 level of the product are in the market, because most of the time they do not need many compliances or some standards, and the basic one will also work for them. This is basically the trial phase, whereas 9 is almost final one. You can imagine it as a product which you are having it, be it a mobile device or something on that note. The question again comes, if to summarize that particular part, what I just discussed with you all over here, this is one slide I just tried to mention it, like how all these things works over there, right? So if you'll see, the 1 and 2 is basically on the basic research side, when something is just cooking into lab, or we can say just we are trying to imagine if this will work or not. So that basic research goes from TRL1 to 2. Whereas when we start going into the TRL2, this is more on the lab side, where we are trying to check for the feasibility already, right? So from basic research to feasibility goes this particular movement goes from 2 to 3. And similarly, when we move into it, when we start developing it, when we're doing trials, you can say in the lab, that's where we say that my technology is now developing. Again, I'm talking more on the technology side, but even if it is on the pharma side, that goes the same way. So this 3 to 5 is all the time when our technology is developing. Whatever first phase of prototype somebody shows, like, okay, I have done this kind of lab and all. This is the difference for the 3 to 5 kind of thing. And once that is done, demonstration goes into the picture, which is more on the 5 and 6. And that's how we say that our product is developed. I also said like your 7 and 8 is something when your product is almost ready to go for the market. The only difference comes is like the testing and launch for it. Like, for example, you want to have certain approvals before going into the market. If let's say it's more on the pharmaceutical side, definitely there need to be more human trials or even other kind of trials. So this is where these TRL 8 come to the picture. And the idea for this TRL level is to understand how I'll be bringing my science into commercialization sector. If you're going toward the one side, if I'm saying that I have a TRL 1 level of experiment or idea, I'm basically talking about an excellent idea which I feel will work and will save a lot of challenges or save a lot of problems for the humankind or for the impact. My TRL level 1 invention is something where I'm very, very much confident. I feel that I'm excellent into it, and that's where TRL 1 talks. Whereas TRL 9 talks more on the product side. If I say that I have a ready product, I would love you guys to invest into it. That means I'm showing you something which is already with me, already validated with all the environmental conditions of the validation side on the demonstration side. So that's how this TRL thing comes to the picture. Also, if you talk, I'm assuming that many of people who have joined me over here is from the government side on the incubators or from the academic side. If you see most of the fund today, which come from the DST, DBT, or from any other funding body, be it like BIREC or so, most of the fund goes for TRL 4 to TRL 6, which is basically to demonstrate the technology, and it is beyond the ideation stage. However, the fund like Nidhi grant and all, which are for the student and for meant for like converting those ideas into the first level of experiments. So that is not something which goes for the higher grant. TRL 4 to 6 is one of the very, very important level of innovation for anyone. And if you are having that level of idea, which you feel comes under TRL 4 to 6, my suggestion would be definitely do check out the government grants basically. Also the industrial grant, which, for example, many of you guys are PhDs or doing a postdoc. So this level of PPP mode comes beyond TRL level 6. I'll also tell you why this TRL 6 goes over there and what is the value of death into the TRL domain. So if you see beyond TRL 5, when I say that I have demonstrated my technology, I know that this will work, or this is a technology which is something can impact the society. And but pre-development of my prototype as a final one, right, means I want to develop this as a prototype. So at that stage, finding out a fund is very, very difficult. In terms of academic wise, because huge fund is needed for this particular level. Most of the time in academics, you may get a seed fund of 5 lakh, 10 lakh, or maximum of that level, or even 20, 30K. So till then you are again into TRL 4 or 3. But if once you cross TRL 4 and you want to move into demonstration phase, this need huge fund. And that's where I think most of the time academic people or academic institutes do not fund it in a major role. Industry also find it difficult to put fund over there because it's a very risky zone, right? Because they don't know, like, even if it will go beyond TRL 7 or not, because this is an experiment zone between understanding into the environment, understanding that particular technology by using it on the real world, demonstrating it over there, and then converting that technology into a product. So this TRL 5 and 7, we also call it value of death most of the time. And but the good thing is, major of the time, for example, in India, major of the government agencies fund over there. And that's where is the good catch for academic people or even for the startups over there. If you are having this level of understand technology, go for government grants. Unlike Germany, France, or any other European unions or the US organization, in India, most of the time, the government fund utilizations or the execution of fund for this kind of thing goes from the government. Whereas in the US or so, even private companies come into the picture to fund these kind of inventions. But somehow, I think that kind of ecosystem is still in very nascent space in India. But slowly, people are going into it. There is one particular grant I just try to bring for help of people to understand it. If you see, this is one program by DST, which is more on manufacturing technology program, they call it. So they are heavily investing on the TRL for 4 to 5, which is for the level 1, which is proof of concept and prototyping. So if you just try to recognize my previous slide, which talks on the value of death, the value of death is always between 5 to 7, and therefore this level 1 of proof of concept and prototyping funds are being given by government, so that more and more inventions can come into the picture. The PhDs and the research, which is always focusing on innovation, can come into the ground, and that's where these kind of funds have been given by government. So at level 1, they have a fund of 50 lakh for TRL 4 to 5, whereas they have another fund which is more on the PPP mode for TRL 6 to 7. And 6 to 7 is where industry is interested, but they do feel that the risk is very high over there, and that's why government has came up with this triple P mode model, where they says that from 60 to 80% of fund will be invested by DST. And I think in last 3 years, if you try to understand the mechanism of DST fund, this goes on the similar mode. Many of the time they will say that you need to have a industry with you as a project partner. The consortium should have one particular company from the one need to be a company, one need to be an organization of your mechanism. Prior to 4 5 years, all the funds were just for the academic one, but last 3 4 years this has changed drastically, and now funds have moved from academic universities to the consortium with the startups and with the industry. And this is actually a good sign for the startup ecosystem as well. This fund again can go for 3 to 4 years, and the usual mechanism of monitoring them is over there. But the fund is again not limited with the value. It can be as large as more than 5 CR kind of thing. And if you guys see Sub Online and this kind of platform, they do have mechanism for grants throughout the year, with even having the high risk, high reward kind of functionality. This particular table plays one more role with the evaluation kind of thing. Like, how will you evaluate these things? What is the criteria for it? And for example, if I'm coming with something to the academic world or to the any startup community, they do use this particular parameter today to evaluate people or their excellence. So that's, I think I told in the beginning itself as well. If somebody is in the TRL 1, this is more of understanding somebody is having scientific excellence over there. So even if I'm saying that I'm having TRL 1, it doesn't mean that I'm at basic idea. It definitely means that my idea is very excellent over there. I have already done basic literature review over there, and this scientific excellence is over there, right? If I'm assuming that TRL 1 is over there, then there is a high chance of getting into TRL 9 level as well. So that's what more toward the TRL 1, whereas 4 and 6 is more on the impact side. And if I to say on the 4 and 6, and on the impact side, this is more on the project like which have very high CSR values, where the risk and reward is again very high. And if I'm at this level, then basically I'm talking more on the impact side. Whereas again, I think I already have discussed this, that more than TRL 6 is more on the sorry, more on the side when industry is interested over there, but they do have a fear of risk over there, because the chances of failing of that technology into 6 to 7 is very, very high. And that's because system is developing over there. They don't know if the technology which we have demonstrated them in the real condition will work or not. And that's why triple P mode comes over there, tech funds comes over there, and even today investors funds comes over there. Before having even the product into the market, many of the time deep tech level investors are ready to fund it out, and this is very good sign for the country like India as well. In the partnership part as well, this plays very, very good role. Like for example, if the universities want to understand like which level of partnership they should follow. For example, definitely National Importance Institute must be following something like this. If somebody says that I'm having a startup is having something on TRL 1 to 4, So academic universities and the bodies are having a lot of partnerships around it. Most of the basic research is happening around that part only. And that's where if somebody says that we have 30% of academic research into TRL 1 to 4, then that kind of association goes over there. Whereas 4 to 6 is more on the RTO kind of thing, research technology organization. And 5 onward is more on the big companies, like maybe for example, Novartis or pharmaceutical agencies, for example, Biome. This kind of organization goes beyond TRL 5 and they have this level of inventions. So this is a journey on the TRL side, and this is a journey on understanding the metrics over there. But when somebody start putting them into the real thing, how does it work? And can we have a patent for just prototype without even having the actual model over there? This is also a very big question, which confuses lot of people over the time. So these are some of the inventions which I was part of earlier, and I'm one of the startup which I was part of, that RT Technologies Private Limited, the tech counselor. So there we have tried to build out something like that, and even having the final big product of TRL 8 or 9, just by having the TRL 7 also we were able to go with the prototyping and even the patent for that. And that's how we try uh, to get the patent. Now the commercialization factor, that's where I think I was saying TRL 6, 7, 8 is something where government invest a lot. So that's how we have started grabbing out the fund. Like for example, STPI recently did some investment over there to make it as a product. This is one very good prototype I just would like to showcase you over there. So this is the top left side is something which is called in the TRL 1 or 2 when it is on the very basic concept side. Whereas before coming into as a real product into the market, which is now with Tulane Institute of Technology. So that's how the difference comes over there. And that's where we need to understand that what sort of changes will happen over there. Even today, when you see the last photograph over there, it is on TRL 8, you can say, because the final testing and all is still yet to do. And once that is done, then we can say that, yes, my final product is ready. These are some of the inventions, just trying to showcase you like, yes, it's very possible to grab grants or even to go for patenting of it. The question comes, what after it, right? What after my patent? Can it be used for the startup side as well, or can I go with the government grant as well? Yes, definitely, it's definitely possible. If you're having a TRL of 4-5 level of invention, suggestion is always to go with the filing of it as a patent, and then also to go with grant kind of thing. For example, Chunauti, STPI do a lot of heavy investment on deep tech segment, whereas other agencies like DSTs and all put a lot of fund to the research organization. Similarly, BIREC, big grant is more focused on healthcare and all on the every sector. So when you have something like that, always startup is always an option, but that does not necessarily mean that you have to start your own startup. If you feel that this is not your cup of tea, definitely you can even put it as a licensing for them. And licensing is again very important over there, and also gives you very good functionality as well. So these are some of the organization I just tried to highlight it in terms of getting the grant. For example, Nidhi is something which do heavy investment for below TRL 3 or 4, gives funding for the student and as well as for the mentors over there. Whereas DST gives funding for TRL 5 to 6 or even to 7. And STPI like organization goes with the 6, 7 when you have a prototype, when you have validated it with the industry market and all. So that's how the commercialization. Okay, there is one more thing which is on the commercialization sector. It is more on again, I think the time period when your product is into the value of that segment. Um, so question come, if I have an idea, if I know that this has been patented, if I know that I will be able to generate fund as well, then what next into it? Of course, job is a good option by selling out or licensing out my IP over there. But as well, then startups is also a good options over there. And today, India is such a big market supporting a startup ecosystem in very high note over there. These are some of the startup. All the startups has came from India only, and all are working not only in the service sector, but many of them are into the product one as well. A startup which were started by a student during the time period, and today doing a lot amazing thing over there. Spandan is one startup which come from the Uttarakhand side. I just wanted to highlight that as well. And you might have heard Rajat Jain over there in the recent show of Shark Tank. So these all product or the prototype came from student segment, and today doing a very wonderful segment. This slide just wanted to bring or highlight for you guys so that to understand we are having very wonderful vibrant market in the country, and this is the best time or this is the right time for you or for anyone to start. I'll just skip these few slides which are more focused on the bringing out a startup kind of thing. But I have talked about the TRL, I have talked about the IP, and the slide which says that IP before PR is again very important. Before you publish something into the market, please go and check out with your incubation centers, go with your agencies. Can we file any kind of IP over there? It can be as small as a trademark, it can be copyright or even a patent. Some of the agencies even have signed MOUs with them. For example, IP5 is one such particular company which is working on it. ITTO is something which is working on it, which is in New Delhi at IIT Delhi, at the incubator of FITT. These are the tech commercialization kind of organizations which provide you complete support for making and for transferring, even for the licensing kind of thing. So when we go with these kind of organizations, then it's very easy for us to understand that not all the time you have to go with the startup, but even there are alternative ways for it. And the strategy for it is also very important for you to understand it. So again, this is more on the implementing of the IP strategy and all. But the highlight on this is like, if you identify something, if you have that level of budget, go with it and leverage it out. Go with the quality and then quantity over there. Value it and leverage it out. So that's all from my side. This is more on the like ideation stage for the startup, but like this is one of the very good quote by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, like more on the startup side. Like, I see startup and technology innovation as exciting and effective instrument for India transformation, and very truly say, very rightly said by him as well, that there are a lot of opportunities for commercializing technologies, for moving out our research from our lab into the market. Uh, those days are gone when we say that, okay, we are doing something on the PhD front. But if we find even a very small possibility of commercializing that technology, so that's where I think we have to play a major role by giving this technology for the impact of the society. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ravi. I'm open for the question, and if there is something we need to discuss.
Yes. Anyone has any question, please ask.
Yes, you can stop sharing your screen. So if anyone has any question, either you can unmute yourself or you can simply put it in chat box also. Mukesh, I have one question. It's like we have seen so many technologies being developed, and most of the technologies that dies during the valley of death that you mentioned, from the TRL 6 to TRL 8, right? But they are filing patent for it. Even before they actually make a product out of that technology, they file a patent for it, and most of the technologies are out there. They are also getting granted for it. So, don't you think that that technology or that innovation is getting wasted?
No, I think I just would like to add over here is many of the time you have to go with the policy of quantity over quality. For example, if you see in one decade, China has become the first country into filing of patent plus granting of it. So today they files a huge number of patent that the next 7 countries, even if you combine, they will not be able to exceed China. So that is the massiveness over there. That is the level of filing of patents over there. And many of the time, filing this patent give two things over there. One is definitely accreditation and recognition. So, because of that, many of the time, even in academy, people go for it. But then it also gives you an option that something is for the public over there. If let's say I have patented something, definitely it will come into the public domain. And then it is up to me if I want to, put some obligations over there, if I want to see it as a product or not, right? So this will basically restrict for some people to not, misuse that kind of thing. So many of the time people go for it with that idea, and in the early stage, what happens? People go for it with an aim that they will be able to generate fund or revenue, but somehow this value of death occurs, and they do not able to crack, government fund, because that's where government fund play a role. And industry is very skeptical over there. They do fear out because it's very high risk over there. So filing of patent is quite easy even in TRL 3 or 4. Even many of the time I have seen people filing patent in TRL 1 based on the provisional or so. But moving it out toward that direction is really a bit difficult. But we cannot say that it's a wastage of money or resources, because somehow it also play a good role in accreditation and recognitions over there.
Anybody else, any question, or else I have few more questions, not too many, just two more. So like one thing also, that's a kind of, you can take it as a suggestion. We don't have any libraries or the academic libraries which has been designated with TRLs. Like for example, they can say that this is a laboratory where we work on this TRLs.
Yeah.
Although there are incubators are there which works on I2P, like for example, idea to prototype, and some of the incubators they work on the like prototype to the product stage. Incubators are working on, but there is no laboratory which, as such, which works on that.
Yeah, so again, rightly said by you, this is one particular market which is at very nascent space. People have not understood the real value around it, you can say. But recently, many of the startups have came into this picture. They have started working out providing support for the TRL1. Of course, it has not been a very direct kind of businesses for them, right? Means it's not something where they say that we have a laboratory for TRL, but they are coming with the idea of providing prototyping support and all. For example, Bari Lab is one such particular startup I know personally, where if you have an idea of TRL 6, 7 kind of thing, if you have an idea of commercialize, means which is on the research base only as of now, but if you feel you want to commercialize that into the future, then definitely Bari Lab can play a very wonderful role over there. It works on the embedded hardware as well as on the pharmaceutical side today by bringing out devices. So these are some of the startup. Even we earlier used to provide such support in the past, but now we have stopped that out. But somehow few startups has taken that as a challenge, and now they are trying to give product support or building out product over there basically, because this value of death is something where startup need to come to figure out that what can be done.
Right. Anyone else has any question? Sorry, I was logged out from my desktop, so I have to join back from my mobile.
No worries. So
Yeah.
I have got one question from Abhimanyu
Yes.
on the IP filing cycle. Means IP filing cycle is something, what I'm understanding, the question is duration for which it has taken. So we have one patent which is granted. I'll just give that as a direct example. Prototype building is something which usually takes 3 to 4 months, but if I just remove that one, it usually took us around 8 months, I think, to get the complete patent as a grant one. And when I say 8 months, this is something from my first day of filing this as a patent to getting it as a complete grant. We did file it from the startup side with the fast track mechanism. Maybe because of that, we have got this as a very fast process. But usually when you file the patent, the filing take almost 1 to 2 months to get into that. And then it is again based on you and the response you are giving to your attorney. Many of my patent still took more than 4 year or 3 year kind of thing to come into the public domain, right? Whereas the one where we wanted to heavily invest our company, where we felt that this particular invention will play a very good role. We went with the fast track mechanism. Also, our response rate with our attorney was very high, means we did not took more than 5 days for anything which come from his side to reply. And within 8 months, we got our patent as a grant.
Okay.
So this cycle always depend on two factors. One is, like for example, I file the patent, which will always be filed by attorney from our side, right? Because based on the legality over there, the language which is very complex and all. So whenever some attorneys gives you reply, for example, my attorney will give me like, okay, give me the feedback on these questions which have been raised by the government of India or attorney from that side, right? What happens, the duration is very high over there, like 6 months of window will be given to you to reply by the this patent office of India. And what happened, most of the time innovators or inventors just take that as a leverage, and for next 3-4 months no one will reply to the attorney, right? Attorney also know that, okay, I'll be getting this reply, and then only they can forward it out. So because of that, what happens, the duration becomes very high over there. In some cases, this is also one reason that patent take time. Otherwise, if everything going on a smooth direction, today patent are getting granted from 6 months to even less than in 2 years kind of thing.
So Mukesh, I have a question. This is Mohammed Mas from AMU.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I just wanted to know, would you be able to connect me to any biotech, biomedical instrument-based company which is basically working on osteoarthritis-based device, or any product which is basically there to solve this problem of osteoarthritis?
I did understood. Sorry, I'm getting some
See,
info.
basically one of our students at AMU, she has a brilliant idea and she's working on it along with me and one of her mentors in the industry, basically from academic perspective. But we wanted to have a connect in any biomedical devices industry, which will basically help her to fine tune her project.
Got it.
From a technological perspective, since you said that there are labs in pharmaceuticals, you have your prior experience. So from there, I was coming, if you would be able to connect us to anyone in that domain.
Sure. What we can do, I just have given my email ID over there in the chat box. Okay. You can give me a brief description of like whatever you feel is can be said, something which does not come under the NDA clause or so. I just would love to see that as a single page document with description or the requirement from your side. And I would love to connect you with somebody from the bio segment at least who can help you out by that way.
Okay, your email ID is mukesh.keshwat@headstart.in, is it?
Yeah, yes. This is my email ID. Fine. You can connect with me on that.
Right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So one connection facilitated through this program, we can say that.
Yeah, always happy to connect, and if anything needed on the incubation side as well.
Sure, Mr. Mukesh.
You have a lot of connects on that one.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Maj, for that connect. Anybody else has any question? Please fill out the feedback form. We have posted it on chat box. Please fill out the feedback form. And there was one question also. So just to check the attentiveness of the participant, we have just put one question, which is just checking how attentively you were. So it's a simple question, right? What is TRL 7? That simple question, we have given option. If you select right option, that means you have been attentive for that program, for this program. So if no question, Mr. Balram, you wanted to say something? Okay. So Mukesh, thank you so much. Really wonderful session, and we look forward that more academic institution file patent, not just patent, and actually goes on to the commercialization, this is obviously a big challenge for academic institution, because most of the student project as well as the researchers project, they are being stuck at TRL 5 or 6 only. But definitely with the support which is being given by the ministries, various ministries, and various enablers. Startup India schemes are there, Make in India schemes are there, which is providing the manufacturing support. There are so many MSMS schemes, which is giving the direct link, PLL's link, manufacturing level funding also. So I think we are going to see lot of uh, so many product startup, manufacturing startup is going to come into the
Yeah, true.
right.
So
And
government have put a lot of effort over there. I think definitely more of the academic people need to come
yes,
because they can play a very vital role over there. What I have seen in the past, most of the time results come from the academic side only, right? The
And-
first fundamental principle come from there.
And one thing I also like to inform you that we also have a very active biotechnology department. And in fact, the professors here, we have formed our own company, biotechnology company. And very soon we are going to commercialize one of the vaccine which has been developed by that department. And we have filed, we have got the Startup India recognition for that as well. And so many things are going on, but biotechnology department is the one which I can say is really working very hard, and they are technology on TRL level. They are at the TRL 7 and TRL 8 stages.
Got them. So this is very nice to know. And like you guys are doing amazing job over there. I must say that the university is doing wonderful support to the startup as well as to the student for that prospect. Um, Feel free to connect with me or with the Head Start. I think you're already part of that group as a volunteer, or you have been an amazing team members over there. So always happy to support and as and when need anything on that front.
Thank you, Mukesh.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you for inviting. Uh, yeah, thank you so much.
So for all the participants, again, once again, I request please fill the feedback form, and I'll share the YouTube link of this talk with all of you. Thank you so much. I'll keep this meeting posted for a while so that everyone can go through that feedback form. Thank you so much.